And we are back for episode 9 of American Horror Story Cult. This one's titled Drink the Kool-Aid. Let's break it down. In a rather unsettling open, the show recreates 3 real-life examples of murder and mass suicide. First, we get a totally unrecognizable Evan Peters as Marshall Applewhite, the leader of the Heaven's Gate cult, a group that committed suicide because they believed the act would bring them to another level. After that, we get Peters playing David Koresh, the leader of the Branch Davidians. Their story also ends in mass death when their compound is raided by authorities. And lastly, the episode earns its title by having Peters play Jim Jones, who also encouraged his followers to participate in a mass suicide, which gave rise to the expression drinking the Kool-Aid. Turns out all this was story time for Kai's army. Kai's behavior does mirror what these 3 men did, so it doesn't come as much of a surprise when Kai dubs them good and also says that it's easy to get men to kill for you. Taking it a step further, though, and making the moment even more chilling, then Kai says that real power is having men so loyal to you that if you ask, they'll kill themselves. Next up is another city council meeting where Kai proposes banning a list of websites in attempt to protect people from cultural decay. Councilman Perry isn't into it, so I'd imagine Kai will teach him a lesson eventually. The motion does pass, though, and with that, the plan is to connect every computer in town with a private network. We don't revisit this idea in this episode again, so hopefully it's addressed down the line. But hearing about Kai's plans to run for Senate in 2018 is something he brings up again and again. Back at Allie and Ivy's place, it's revealed that Allie isn't really a full-blown cult member, as expected. And in Allison Pill's best scene of the season, she explains to Allie why she joined the cult. And while it's not a good excuse per se, it does make sense from her perspective. At the beginning of the season, I got the impression that she was the one who had control and confidently kept their family together, but really, she was desperate for structure, and that's how Kai snuck in. It's a moving moment, but I'm really glad Allie's not giving in because there's no forgetting that Ivy killed people. Allie tells Ivy the only reason she joined the cult is to get Ivy out, but not for Ivy, for Oz. And that's when we finally get to see Oz again, and in an oddly touching moment, Allie gives him a twisty comic, showing again that Allie's past her fears. When Oz goes upstairs, things get a little more serious again, and Winter apologizes to Allie for everything, and I kind of believed her. Winter blaming the election did kind of rub me the wrong way, but otherwise, I found Ivy and Winter's reasoning for why they joined Kai pretty compelling. They all agree that running away is their best option, but before they can leave, Kai's army forces them to go over to his place for a meeting. So in Kai's basement, he lectures Allie, Ivy, Winter, and Beverly about entering something he calls the power space. He brings out a pot with some Kool-Aid in it. He quotes Jim Jones, taps into Marshall Applewhite's preaching, and then insists that everyone drink, minus one guy who Gary quickly shoots. Eventually, everyone does, and then Kai reveals there was never anything in it at all. It was just a test to determine who was loyal. After that's taken care of, it's back to running away, and it did feel like a bit of an abrupt shift to me as far as episode structure goes, but I do love how this scene is a role reversal for Allie and Ivy. Allie's in control, Ivy's freaking out. They go to pick up Oz from school for their big escape, but it turns out he's already gone and he's busy playing the pinky game with Kai. Kai tells Oz he's got a secret, but before we hear it, we cut to Allie and Ivy running up to the door. They obviously want to take Oz home, but the sequence offers up a shocking twist when Oz won't go and refers to Kai as daddy because that's what Kai told him during their pinky session, and you can't lie when you do that. This is where the episode links back to the David Koresh story. Apparently, Kai was a donor at the clinic that Allie went to, and even though there's no concrete proof at this moment, Oz is believing that Kai's his father, and Oz wants to stay there for a sleepover. Allie and Ivy don't really have a choice in the matter, so now that running away isn't an option, they come to the conclusion that their only play is murder. But you might have noticed that Allie never specifies who they need to murder, and then we get an especially drawn-out, tense dinner scene. given the recurring idea of poisoning drinks this episode. The second Allie presents the bottle of wine to Ivy, I was sure she poisoned the meal, but knowing didn't ruin the suspense at all. The episode plays with the idea to great effect by letting Ivy eat while Allie watches. She slowly places the napkin on her lap, and I love how they frame out Ivy while Allie is telling her story about the time she was in the psych ward. It's just another way to keep me guessing and wondering, when will they cut back to Ivy and show the effects of the poison? But before that even happens, Allie delivers a nice callback to a previous episode by explaining that her fears were filling a hole she had, and she had to fill that hole with something else, and she chose revenge. I was sure that was going to be the big moment, but then Ivy actually fires back by saying to Allie that her current confidence and control is just a phase. Just as I started to second guess where the scene was heading, that's when it happens. Allie reveals she put arsenic in the wine and pasta, and it's a vicious death to watch. And it's a great scene, but if I'm being completely honest here, there is one other recent show that did that kind of kill a lot better. Right after that, we go back to Peters as Jim Jones as he tells the story. After Jones dies, Jesus comes down, played by Peters, of course, and he brings him back to life, and then Jones starts to bring his followers back to life. Kai's army is totally buying it. Oz isn't, thanks to Wikipedia, and when Kai can't bully Oz into agreeing with him, he puts Oz in timeout. The next morning, Allie comes over to pick up Oz with a new hairdo, and I know it sounds silly, but it's got to signify something, maybe how she changes after killing Ivy. But anyway, Allie manages to keep it together when she's told that Oz isn't there, and then she goes to the clinic to plead with an employee to show her a photo of Oz's birth father. The name on the form is Chris Madison, and the photo is not of Kai. Next, Kai arrives at Allie's for dinner, and the scene plays out in a way that suggests that Allie might be getting ready to poison him. She even tells Kai that she poisoned Ivy, but he keeps on eating anyway. The scene continues to take interesting turns, with Allie sliding him a file folder that says Kai is Oz's father. She compliments him like crazy and claims there was some sort of divine intervention that made her pick him as Oz's father, and Kai is just eating it all up. After dinner, they bring Ivy's body into Kai's parents' room, and then Allie is reunited with Oz, with the episode concluding with Allie, Oz, and Kai sharing a family hug. So I'm not really buying it, and I know this might sound like a stretch, but I'm kind of thinking Ivy's death might have been staged. It was a fantastic sequence, and I believed Allie's rage, but there was one moment during Allie's dinner with Kai that I got the feeling she was playing him, and then when they bring Ivy's body over, Allie gives her a look, and it looks like she's feeling something, and it's got nothing to do with rage or revenge. I think the show can get away with turning Allie into a killer if it wraps up in a shockingly poignant, thoughtful way, but turning their only good character into another murderer is a risky move. But if Allie staged Ivy's death to save Oz and take Kai down, that could be a way for Cult to close out with viewers getting the pleasure of seeing someone live happily ever after. But really, it's just a theory. It's totally possible that Allie really did kill Ivy, and that one look in Kai's parents' room was a little grief and sadness, because after all, they had been together a long time, and losing someone amidst all this backstabbing and chaos has to hurt. But then you've still got to wonder, why didn't Allie just kill Kai at dinner? I do get the feeling he would have sniffed it out if she really did poison his meal, but even so, what's Allie's reason for giving Kai the impression that he's Oz's father? I'm assuming it's mainly to keep Oz safe while he's at Kai's place, but I also suspect there might be more to it than that. If there isn't, and Allie just has Oz tunnel vision, I am not looking at her to save anyone else. Winter would be on her own, and who knows what's going on with Beverly right now. Kai is just more dangerous than ever, and I believe it when Evan Peters is preaching his agenda and bullying the opposition. But the Kai army might be just a little too comical. I do think that's the intention to a point, but it feels like a jarring shift when we spent the whole first half of the season seeing how Kai personally manipulated a select group of individuals to join his cause, and then we've got this private security force of sorts that's made up of brainless and extremely gullible thugs. Regardless, I still enjoyed watching this episode. I'm intrigued by what it added to certain characters. I thought they worked in the true components pretty well also, but I am hitting a point where I'm just getting a little bit concerned about the season ending. Right now, I am thoroughly entertained, but this season really needs to stick the landing to mean something. It needs to justify all this with something that gives purpose to the whole experience. I'm still firmly on board and very hopeful that Colt will get there. So while we wait to see what happens in next week's episode, hit the comments section and let me know what you think of episode 9. Do you agree with my crazy theory? Do you have some theories of your own? Share them below, and I will see you next week for a review and recap of American Horror Story Cult, episode 10.